Hi there, welcome to me, Rodger, Sir Rodger Rose, a licensed to thrill, read and dream. Well, today you've actually caught me in an absolute sensational park. I really love this. It's really beautiful, very calming, not many people. And this is a beautiful place to read and walk and think about dreaming and reading and anything you like. But on a hot day like this, you've got to just embrace it and go out. So I've got no book, but I have a present from my dear mother hen, so let's see. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's going to be, it could be trainers, or it might be a pig, a new pet maybe, I don't know. So here we go. Oh my jolly gosh, it's a real book. But look at that. So this is The Adventures of Captain Underpants. Look at that. The first epic novel by Dav Pilkey. Okay, so that is the book, and we seem to have many books by this author. It looks absolutely wondrous. Now, tips just for children and adults, especially children, when it's really hot on a day like this, sensational. Make sure you're wearing a hat. Now, I have a contingency plan. I've got my bottle of water for dehydration. Okay, I also have my sun lotion. You've got to make sure you are protected. And just for bonus, when I go home tonight, after sun. Okay, so protect yourself when reading. Don't forget. Okay, so The Adventures of Captain Underpants, a beautiful, sensational book cover. I really like the style. So let's read it. Many chapters. We can see many chapters there. Yes, very stunning. So let's see. Chapter 1. George and Harold. Lovely names. Okay. Meets George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. George and Harold were best friends. They had a lot in common. They lived right next door to each other, and they were both in the same 4th grade class at Jerome Horwitz Elementary School. George and Harold were usually responsible kids. Whenever anything bad happened, George and Harold were usually responsible. But don't get the wrong idea about these two. George and Harold were actually very nice boys. No matter what everybody else thought, they were good, sweet and lovable. Well, okay, maybe they weren't so sweet and lovable, but they were good nonetheless. It's just that George and Harold each had a sulky streak a mile long. Usually that silly streak was hard to control. Sometimes it got them into trouble, and once it got them into big trouble. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 2. The Tree Comic. Tree comics? After a hard day of cracking jokes, pulling pranks, and causing mayhem at school, George and Harold liked to rush to the old treehouse in George's backyard. Inside the treehouse were 2 big old fluffy chairs, a table, a cupboard, crammed with junk food, and a padlocked crate filled with pencils, pens, and stacks of paper. Now Harold loved to draw, I loved to draw, and George loved to make up stories, and together the 2 boys spent hours and hours writing and drawing their very own comic books. Over the years, they had created hundreds of their own comics, starring dozens of their own superheroes. First there was Dogman, then came Timmy the Talking Toilet, and who could forget the amazing Cow Lady? But the all-time greatest superhero that they ever made up had to be the amazing Captain Underpants. George came up with the idea. Most superheroes look like they're flying around in their underwear, he said. Well, this guy actually is flying around in his underwear. The 2 boys laughed and laughed. Yes, said Harold, he could fight with wedgie power. George and Harold spent the entire afternoon writing and drawing the comic. adventures of Captain Underpants. He was their coolest superhero ever. Look at that. Amazing. Amazing. Wow. Luckily, the boys, the secretary at Jerome Horwitz Elementary School was much too busy to keep an eye on the copy machine. So whenever they got a chance, Harold and George would sneak into the office and run off several hundred copies of their latest Captain Underpants adventure. After school, they sold their homemade comics on the playground for 50 cents each. Very cheap. Chapter 3. The Adventures of Captain Underpants. Here we go. Written by George Beard and cartoons by Harold Hutchins. Harold Hutchins. Right, here we go. The Really Cool Adventures of Captain Underpants, written by George Beard, drawn by Harold Hutchins. It was a time of darkness and despair for planet Earth. Bad guys had taken over the streets and all of the superheroes in the world were too old to fight evil. Hey, ha 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 ha. Then came along a new improved extra strength superhero. Tra-la-la-la-la-la. Look up! In the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's an egg salad sandwich. No way, I'm Captain Underpants. Captain Underpants was faster than a speeding waistband. Zoom! More powerful than shorts, and able to leap tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Tra-la-la-la-la-la. Night and day, Captain Underpants watched over the city, fighting for truth, justice, and all that is pre-shrunk and cottony. Meanwhile, at a nearby elementary school, it was Stinky Taco Surprise Day at the cafeteria. Yuck! Everybody hated it so much they all threw it away. Soon the cafeteria food came to life. I am the Incredible Hulk. The monster ran around the school eating everything in sight. Help! The Incredible Hulk just ate up 15 folding chairs and the gym teacher. Oh no! No folding chairs! This looks like a job for Captain Underpants. Tra-la-la-la-la-la. Captain Underpants shot lots of underwear at the monster, but it didn't do any good. So Captain Underpants took off running. The inedible hunk chased him. Roar, help! And chased him, and chased him. Finally, the incredible hunk got too tired and thirsty to chase Captain Underpants. How about a nice drink of water? So the monster took a long drink from a shiny white bowl. Gulp, gulp, gulp. When suddenly, flush. Hooray for Captain Underpants! And so the inedible hunk got flushed away and was never heard from again. Tra-la-la-la-la-la. The end. Don't miss our next exciting adventure, Captain Underpants and the attack of the talking toilets. Coming soon to a playground near you. Chapter 4. Mean Old Mr. Krupp. Do you see the old guy looking out of the window up there? That's Mr. Krupp, the principal. Now, Mr. Krupp was the meanest, sourest old principal in the whole history of Jerome Horwitz Elementary School. He hated laughing and singing. He hated the sound of children playing at recess. In fact, he hated children altogether. And guess which two children Mr. Krupp hated most of all? You guessed it, George and Harold. You're right. Mr. Krupp hated George and Harold. He hated their pranks and their wisecracks. He hated their silly attitudes and their constant giggling. And he especially hated those awful Captain Underpants comic books. Look at him, not very happy. I'm going to get those boys one day, Mr. Krupp vowed. One day, very, very, very soon. He's not happy. Chapter 5. One day, very soon. Remember when I said that George and Harold's silly shriek got them into big trouble once? Well, this is a story of how that happened. and how some huge pranks and a little blackmail turned their principal into the coolest superhero of all time. It was the day of the big football game between Hoyt's Knuckleheads and the Steubenville Stinkbugs. The bleachers were filled with fans. The cheerleaders ran onto the field and shook their pom-poms over their heads. A fine black dust drifted out of their pom-poms and settled all around. "Give me a K," shouted the cheerleader. "K," repeated the fans. "Give me an N," shouted the cheerleaders. "N," shouted the fans. "Give me an A-coo, achoo," sneezed the cheerleaders. Achoo, repeated the fans. The cheerleaders sneezed and sneezed and sneezed some more. They couldn't stop sneezing. "Hey," shouted a fan in the bleachers. "Somebody sprinkled black pepper into the cheerleaders' pom-poms." "I wonder who did that?" asked another fan. The cheerleaders stumbled off the field, sneezing and dripping with mucus as the marching bands took their places. But when the band began to play, steady streams of bubbles began blowing out of their instruments. Bubbles were everywhere, up and down the field. The marching band slipped and slid, leaving behind a thick trail of wet, bubbly foam. "Hey," shouted a fan in the bleachers. "Somebody poured bubble bath into the marching band's instruments." "I wonder who did that?" asked another fan. Soon, the football team took the field. The knuckleheads kicked the ball. Up, up, up went the ball. Higher and higher it went. The ball sailed into the clouds and kept right on going until nobody could see it anymore. "Hey," shouted a fan in the bleachers. "Somebody's filled the game with the helium." "I wonder who did that?" asked another fan. But the missing ball didn't make any difference because at that moment the knuckleheads were rolling around the field, scratching and itching like crazy. "Hey," shouted the coach, "somebody replaced our deep heating muscle rub lotion with Mr. Pranks' extra scratchy itching cream." "We wonder who did that?" shouted the fans in the bleachers. The afternoon went on much the same way, with people shouting everything from "Hey, somebody put sea monkeys in the lemonade" to "Hey, somebody glued all the bathroom doors shut." Before long, most of the fans in the bleachers had gotten up and left. The big game had been forfeited, and everyone in the entire school was miserable. Not very happy there. Everyone, that is, except for two giggling boys in the shadows beneath the bleachers. "Those were our best pranks yet," laughed Harold. "Yep," chuckled George. "They'll be hard to top, that's for sure." "I just hope we don't get busted for this," said Harold. "Don't worry," said George. "We covered our tracks really well. There's no way we'll get busted." Okay, so that is the first 5 chapters. It's a beautiful, absolutely, get your eyes on that beast. Look at that, beautiful. The Adventures of Captain Underpants, a sensational book, and like I say, try your best, read it if you want. Plenty of selection there from the author. Okay, so it's a beautiful book. Go out and buy it, and like I say, read where you can. It's a sensational. I will be reading more of this in the park after this because I just don't want to stop. I just want to keep reading. I don't want to keep talking for too long. So like I keep saying, you can read at home, inside, outside. Look into those shops. Find books. Find the books that you want. You decide. Okay, so thank you for watching and listening, and I hope you've had a power reading session. I know that I have. And don't forget, it's very hot today, so I'm going to make sure I keep hydrated by drinking my water. I will also put some more lotion on me because it is warm, so remember to do that. So keep on reading and keep on dreaming.